Hello everybody, welcome back to Sports Card Connections. Today we're going to take an in-depth look at a very iconic set from Japan, the 1967 Kabaya-Leaf set. You see these cards show up. If you know Japanese cards, of course, you're well aware of this. If not, you may have seen them on eBay or read about them maybe. They are a very famous set and have an interesting story, so we'll plunge right in. Here we go. The set consists of 106 cards that are skip numbered. It contains the top three finishing teams from each of the two leagues, the Central League and the Pacific League from 1966. So that means the Giants, the Dragons, and the Tigers from the Central League, and the Hawks, Lions, and Flyers from the Pacific League. You wouldn't be seeing these cards if it wasn't for one person, Mel Bailey, who was a captain in the U.S. Air Force, stationed in Tokyo with the Air Force Band. Mel had been involved with Bud Ackerman. Bud had been in the Navy. He was stationed in Japan through 1964. And Mel is the one that, Bud's the one that found and started sending back some of the small cards you see around like this from 1962 and 3. And he came back. Mel went looking when he got there in 1965. And he actually found some 1964 issues, different ones that they imported to here. But in 1967, the Kabaya-Leafs he found. The Kabaya Candy Company had an affiliation with Leaf of Chicago. And what Mel found was he found cards from the Yomiuri Giants inside of a chocolate ball package. And you could see through a window in the packaging the card. And you could pick out which one you want. So Mel got all the Giants he could. He said that's who he kept finding was Giants. Eventually he contacted Kabaya and he purchased all the rest of the cards they had, which total over 21,000 cards, with the idea of making complete sets. Now, the interesting thing is there was 4 Giants cards that he couldn't find very many of. They are really, really scarce. There's another 4 to 5 Giants cards that there's fewer quantities. And then there's one card that he never got at all and didn't even know existed, which has only been found recently. So with Japanese cards, things can be discovered. We're going to see all the cards in the set over this series. This is going to be the overview. And what you have in front of you there are the 6 managers. They are all Hall of Famers. There's speculation about what about the other 6 clubs, were they ever printed, because the set is skip numbered. And so the thinking is, well, maybe those were going to be the other teams, but they just didn't. Well, there's no evidence for that. It's just speculation. No other card. The Braves, Buffaloes, Orions, Adams, Wales, Carp, no cards from those teams have ever been found. It's just been these. And so Mel brought back everything he could. They sold in sets. The 4 scarce Giants cards went in groups to whoever were the first people that ordered or old-time collectors that he knew. Other than that, then the next would be a group of 101 different. Then it would be a group of 96 different. And they are tough. There's no doubt about it. They don't show up in Japan that often. Most of the ones found are here. And it's because of Mel. So I knew Mel. I went to a ball game with Mel. I went to card shows with Mel. I went to Mel's house. He was just the greatest guy in the world, a great old-time collector. And Mel also was a very, very, very avid photographer. He took pictures for Topps and other card companies. In this same year, in 1967, he produced a yearbook on Japanese baseball. This is it. If you see it, pick it up. It's all in English, and it was for Americans in Japan. That picture he took at the 1966 Japan Series, Shigeo Nagashima batting for the Giants against the Hawks. And it also contains an ad for the cards that he and Bud had been involved with bringing back. Here you go. And see, that's Bud's address in Virginia. Those are 2 of the 1964s. That Mel actually got, and he had sent them, and Bud was handling the sales in the U.S. So, like the channel name, Sports Card Connection, said, I like to connect the dots with various issues within card collecting. And one of the connections is a very interesting one through up to a modern player. And here we have Giant second baseman Shozo Doi. We can get it better focusing anyhow, which doesn't look like it's an issue I'm always having. Well, we have Doi, and we have Lions infielder and coach Akira Ogi. And many years later, these two would be connected because the Braves had become the Blue Wave, and they had a young star. Here he is, Ichiro Suzuki. And Doi, this is 1993, was his manager. Doi didn't like his batting style, and Ichiro Suzuki spent most of the time on the B squad. But the man who had signed Ichiro and discovered him was Ogi. So Doi was relieved of his duties. Ogi took over as manager. He knew what Ichiro could do and had him bat any way he wants to. And of course, he did. That focus. He did have an unusual batting style, and hoping this will come in. Come on, camera. That was not, conformed to the usual Japanese this is ridiculous. The usual Japanese batting style, which they teach in kind of a rote methodology. Finally. And this is in 1994, so he replaced Doi. And of course, Ichiro took off, culminating in coming to the U.S., getting 3,000 hits here. So those two were connected all those years later as manager of the Blue Wave, and how they handled Ichiro. The Giants cards, as you may notice, get Doi back up here. All the Giants cards have facsimile autographs. They're the only ones that do, and none of the other teams do. You will also notice stylistically that there are two designs, a circular design and then the rectangle panel at the bottom. Now, the circular design, essentially, that's all the pitchers and catchers. The rectangular design is everybody else plus the managers. Of course, there's one exception. Giants backup catcher Isao Ohashi, he is given a panel version instead of the circular version for reasons, who knows, maybe just an error. So, the final discussion by way of introduction would have to be on Japan's version of the Black Sox scandal, which is known as the Black Mist scandal, which involved players essentially throwing games, and it spread to auto racing, and there were even some players involved with helping fix auto races. It first came to light at the end of 1969, but there were a lot of players in the Kabaya-Leaf set involved. So we're going to take a look at them before we go on to a team-by-team examination of all the cards. So here they are. Dragons starting pitcher Kentaro Ogawa. He was banned for life. Takao Katsuragi of the Dragons, suspended for 3 months. Hiroyuki Miura, pitcher of the Hawks, stern warning for not reporting what he knew. Masaaki Ikenaga, star pitcher of the Lions, he was their ace, banned for life, vehemently protested the ban, as did the team. Eventually, and I mean way later, in 2005, he was reinstated. A little too late to play. Yoshinobu Yoda, Lions, banned for life, pitcher. Tsutomu Tanaka, Lions pitcher, one of the few players to throw a perfect game. He was banned for life, but he retired after 1969. So it didn't affect him as much. Lions infielder Kazuhide Funada, suspended through the end of 1970 season when it all blew up. Flyers pitcher Toshiaki Moriyasu, banned for life. Now that's all the Kabaya-Leafs, but if I have a card of some of the others involved, I'll show it. And here we have Wales pitcher Takashi Suzuki. This is a 1959 card. And at that time, he was a coach for the Wales. And he was banned for life. Briefly showed this without mentioning. This is Takeshi Kuwata, Wales third baseman. Kuwata got a 3-month suspension, but he retired, and then he was banned for life. There we go. Hopefully. Well, whatever. A few more. Orion's pitcher Fumio Narita. He's in the middle of this group. And he was suspended for 1 month. Yeah. These focus things drive me nuts. Then we have Kimiyasu Murakami of the Orions. He was suspended through the end of 1970. Those are two of the 1975 top star Japan cards, actually made by Ed Broder. These are three 1979 Calbys. Huge slugger Masahiro Doi, way over 400 home runs. Doi was suspended 1 month. At this time he was a reliever, former starter Yutaka Inatsu. At one point he was Japan's all-time saves leader. He also struck out over 400 batters in 1 year. Inatsu, he got a severe warning, but he would have other off-the-field troubles later in life. In fact, last I heard, he still does. And then Mitsuo Motoi, here he is with the Whales, but he got a severe warning. He was at the Lions at the time. And there were a few others involved. In fact, Ogawa, the Dragons pitcher, his involvement was helping to fix car races. So, that being said, the set is fascinating to collect. You're going to see every card in it because I have color copies of the 4 rare ones and the recently discovered number 65, which was not known to exist. Mel never had it. He didn't get it from Kabaya-Leaf. He never got it, or the Kabaya Company. He never got it at retail. He never saw it. All the lists used to say number 65 not issued. Well, it's turned up. It's been found. So it does exist. So we're going to go team by team. We'll start with the Yomiuri Giants. The way the skip numbering works, the Giants are numbered 1 through 20. Then the Dragons are 51 to 71. The Tigers are 101 to 119. Then you jump to the Pacific League. The Hawks are 301 to 319. The Lions are 351 to 367. The Flyers are 401 to 410. They only had 10 cards. The rhyme or reason, I have no idea. So let's take a look at the Giants. And we will start right in with Hall of Fame manager Tetsuharu Kawakami. And you know what? If you're going to put facsimile autographs, I think don't use a night game picture. I mean, that floating rectangle with the autograph, But as also you'll notice the rounded corners, I see the Giants cards were out in public. Most of the 5 teams, most of the other cards you see, they're going to look really nice because Mel got them straight from the factory, but not the Giants. So there's Kawakami. He's one of the second tier of tough cards, the 5 tough ones. Number 1. His complete batting record, and then a lot of the titles. His nickname was the God of Batting, or God of Hitting. He was quite a player. Played up through the late 50s. Number 2 is one of the rare cards, and that's Hidetake Watanabe, starting pitcher of the Giants. I have one card of him later on with the Carp. This is my color copy, the best I can do. The 4 rare cards, I mean, they're really tough. There's like maybe 20 or so of them around. So there's Watanabe number 2. Next, another one of the scarce ones, Giants pitcher Kunio Jonouchi. One of their starters, number 3. You see they also have these little generic drawings on there. You have their complete lifetime stats, which sometimes get a little iffy. Giants Hall of Fame pitcher Tsuneo Horiuchi. This is his first card. He was a rookie in 1966. Rookie of the year, he went 16-2 and pitched up into the mid-80s. Next, we have Giants pitcher Minoru Nakamura. Number 5. So what's up there at the top? The uniform. Card number, and then that's their last name, first name, and position. The position is Toshu, or pitcher. Then underneath you're going to have all the bats and throws, left and right, birth date, school, college or high school he played, maybe a little blurb, and the lifetime stats. Next, Japan's greatest pitcher, who's actually a Korean, Masaichi Kaneda. 4,000 strikeouts, 400 wins. That's a tougher card to get. Kaneda was right near the end. At this point, he had won 368 games. Mostly played for the bad Swallows of the 50s and up to the early 60s before getting traded to the Giants, where he managed to then get on some champion teams and finish his 400 wins and 4,000 strikeouts. Nickname is the Emperor. Giants pitcher Akira Takahashi. Number 7. Another of the rare ones. Giants pitcher Kazumi Takahashi. As you see, he had just started out too. He would pitch into the 80s. Eventually went to the Fighters, who were still known as the Flyers in this set. Here's the exception to the format. Giants backup catcher Isao Ohashi should have the round format, but has the rectangular. Card number 9. Number 10, Masahiko Mori, longtime Giants starting catcher, and later on got his Hall of Fame stats by managing the Lions to many titles in the 80s. When he actually changed his name from Masahiko to Masaaki. This is a Japanese thing that you see sometimes even a last name change. Number 10. That drawing is supposed to look like him. There's a couple like that. That's one of them. Most of them are generic, not his. Number 11. Mr. O. By the way, that's my writing at the top. I do the translation, so just if anybody else is looking at my cards, they know. Sadaharu O, 868 home runs, all world, all everything. Super nice guy. So there he is. You'll see also, I don't know if you can see it, look closely in the upper left corner, there's some crimping on the top of the card from the candy and packaging. Just like you might get here if the card was too close to the wrapper when the machine sealed it. That also is supposed to look like O in the drawing. Japan's all-time favorite player, Shigeo Nagashima, Mr. Pro Baseball, or Mr. Giants, 2 nicknames. The great third baseman, 5-time, I believe, MVP. There he is, number 12. He managed the Giants a couple of times subsequently, starting in 1975, He came back and managed the Giants in the 90s as well. Number 13, you've already seen, Shozo Doi. He would be their starting second baseman throughout the 70s. Managerial record, not so hot. You mess up a star player like that, yeah, that's not good. Number 14, Akira Shiobara, backup infielder of the Giants. Backup shortstop, Keisuke Senda. Number 15. He had been a rookie in 1966. Starting shortstop, Yukinobu Kuroe. Later coached for the Giants for years. Started at shortstop up through the mid-70s before he retired. Number 17, the fourth rare Giant, Katsutoyo Yoshida. Outfielder, former Flyers player. He'd come to the Giants a couple years earlier. Outfielder Isao Shibata, played up through the 80s. Japan's first switch hitter. One of the all-time stolen base leaders, I believe over 500 stolen bases. Actually came out of high school as a pitcher. You can find some early 60s cards of him where he's listed as a pitcher, but nah, he became an outfielder. Starting outfielder Akira Kunimatsu. This one, mine, you can't really see. It has a crease here too. Maybe it shows up. Yeah, I think it does on the camera. And again, because this came out of the open marketplace, not just from the factory floor where it had never been distributed. And finally, the last Giants player, Toshimitsu Suetsugu. Occasionally you'll see his name Tamio, that's a nickname, Suetsugu. He was a Giants starting outfielder through the late 70s, and he is number 20. Okay, that'll be part 1. Part 2, we will look at the Tigers and the Dragons, and then part 3, we'll look at the 3 Pacific League teams. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.